can't believe that photo is probably 10 years old. I need to update my headshot. Well, thank you all for being here. Maison Meta, we started about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, digging into generative AI and looking at how we can apply that to various industries. Since the beginning of this year, we worked with a lot of different companies in the space, everyone from Moncler, Victoria's Secret, Zara, L'Oreal, Unilever, H&M, and so on. And our work has been sort of divided into different use cases. So what I'm going to do is take you through all the use cases that we have for generative AI, and also share with you why the companies that we work with want to do the work that we do. A lot of our focus is actually not so much on the creativity side and innovation, but it's much more about how we can help these companies save money, go to market faster, do things more efficiently, so on and so forth. So anything you're going to see from here onwards doesn't exist. Everything was generated using various AI tools. One question, so who's used Midjourney? Okay. Who's used Stable Diffusion? ControlNet? Automatic 1111? Disco Diffusion? Okay. Just to get a sense of how we do that. So our very first project was for Moncler Genius. It was to support their collaboration with Alicia Keys, Pharrell Williams, Adidas, Originals, Fragments, a few others. And this whole campaign was done in about 3 weeks. Obviously, it didn't involve any photographers, any makeup, stylists. Everything was done using generative AI. And the objective behind this was to sort of take the designs that had been created and sort of use generative AI to almost exaggerate them a little bit so that they could be used as part of the campaign for the launch that they did in London back in February time. So this is sort of like the range of the work that we did for Moncler Genius. You know, this was in February, now we're in September. The tools and the quality of the work that you can do has sort of come a very, very, very long way. So even these seem sort of somewhat outdated when I look at them right now. This next project was in collaboration with Steven Meisel and Zara. And you know, one of the hypes around AI and using different tools is that, you know, people can create beautiful background imagery or, you know, AI avatars or even, you know, collections or objects that don't exist, because the nature of AI is that it goes out, looks for all sorts of things that are similar. So if you tell it to look for a red dress, it will go out, collect all the red dresses, bring it back, and you can prompt it to have a certain neckline, length, slit, but it will never be the exact replica of the actual product that you have. So one of the things we've done over the last year and a half is created a custom workflow that uses about 7 or 8 different AI tools that we patch together to not only give us the wow effect, but also allow us to control up to about 95% the exact details of the actual clothes or the actual objects that we work with. So in this one, you know, the starting point was like the AI avatar. So Steven wanted someone who sort of looked like him when he was younger. And then from there, we created custom models of the actual collection that he's developing with Zara. And so if you look at the details, you'll see that the creases, the texture, the feeling, all of those are within, again, 95, 99% of the actual product. At least to the consumer's eye, it's the exact product that they're going to buy in store. And even with the position, you know, we have various tools in ControlNet and others where you can really decide upon the position, the lighting. Everything here that you see was prompted with the direction of Stephen and his team and executed in our studio. So the other advantage of AI is the scalability and what you can do very quickly and leveraging content across multiple channels. So this is part of the 20th anniversary campaign that we did with Revolve. They've been a huge supporter of what we do since the beginning. We work directly with the two co-CEOs, and we've done multiple projects with them. So this particular project was as part of their 20th anniversary Coachella activation. So we started with the images you see on the top left. They're not supposed to be hyper-realistic. It was originally meant for digital use, so online, e-commerce, and so on. And then quickly they decided that they wanted to use the images and do a wild poster campaign, which we did within a day turnaround. And then they decided that they wanted to scale up the images. And so this was actually the world's first AI-generated billboard ad that we did with Revolve. It was across California, from LA all the way to Coachella. And the thing that was really important for Revolve here was that not only that we kind of are able to bring some creativity to the table and sort of imagine what these campaigns should look like, but the money and time they saved on actually producing a campaign, they reinvested in buying billboard ads that they would not have been able to do before. So for them, this was a super powerful campaign, and we continue to work with them on a number of different things. You may have heard that we're also behind AI Fashion Week, which the first one was in April, and the next one's going to be in November in Milan. And with Revolve, we also have set up a AI fashion incubator. So actually, we started testing with them, taking the clothes that we had designed using generative AI for the campaigns, and actually we produced them, and they sold it online. And now through the AI incubator, the 3 winners of AI Fashion Week, their collections have been created. They're going to go online in October, so people can actually buy them and wear them. So this is a really nice full cycle of going from digital to physical, and something that people can actually use. So with H&M Home, this was another sort of example of how we can use generative AI and the workflow that we have to actually replicate actual products. So if you look at, for example, these candles, they look real, but they were generated using AI. We created a custom model, and then we're able to pull it in into the background that we did. And one of the drivers for H&M was that instead of having 12 people flown out to south of France or any other location to do these shoots, they're able to do this within 3 weeks. Nobody had to fly anywhere. All the elements from lighting, position, creative direction, all of that was done by us. And we're able to bring in the sort of the essence or the feeling that you have. Even if you look at the lighting at the bottom of these candle holders, you can see that there's a lot of details that we're able to bring in with AI. And even the feel of the cushion here. So materiality is something that we can replicate. And again, these are, by all intents and purposes, almost 100% the product that you would see when you go in the store. So the other, if you like, benefit of doing AI, so one of the first things we said was time to market, cost efficiency, doing things quicker. Then it was the scalability. Using the Revolve example, we went from digital to poster to billboard to actual clothes. And so this is the idea of personalization. So here again, the bag is the exact bag. We've created custom AI models that we're able to use and pull into any sort of image. And so rather than them having to do multiple shoots to get the attention or represent different parts of their audience. We're able to do that very quickly with this sort of AI catalog that we can create. So this can be done with any type of person, in any type of background. And one of the drivers behind this was that they were telling us they use a lot of their budgets to shoot campaigns that are for the US or for Europe, and then suddenly someone in Asia says, well, I want a campaign with a different person, with a different background. And so rather than them having to go and reshoot everything, we're able to do that very quickly using AI. So personalizing it to the audience, to the type of environment they want. Again, this is all done by AI. Nothing here actually really exists. And we can bring in materiality as well. And this can be hyper-real to give the consumer a sense of what this product looks and feels like. So this is the recent work we did with Victoria's Secret. I think they're launching it tonight as part of their event in New York. So we took, this is a very simple piece, we took their logo and sort of Barbified it, made it feel a bit more 3D. Then we did what we call AI casting. So we created personas with particular looks, skin tones, body types, so they can actually choose the person that they want to represent the brand. And then on this occasion, the idea was to make the creative feel like it's been done with AI, so much more fantastical and futuristic. Another person, and again, these clothes, they were generated by us through the custom models that we create, but they're almost exact replicas of what they do. And then you can sort of Barbify the look for them to go through. And then this is a existing sort of project that we're doing with them, again, with their bottle. Static things are much easier to reproduce than clothes. So we created an AI catalog for them, and this way they can recreate, reimagine, redo campaigns for their products in a much, much quicker way and with maximum creativity. For this one, it was a slightly different usage. So the objective here was to imagine what a Moncler campaign for Angel could look like. And so we call this artificial creativity. It's part of our AI exploration. So we sort of take some ideas from the client and then reflect them into the AI work that we do. So these was about, what's the persona, this androgynous look, what could the shape of the bottle be in the future, how could we represent that as part of an advertising campaign. And some of the work we've done in the space in relationship to artificial creativity has been done for brands where they're bringing in world famous photographers, and we can work with that very well-known person to create the look and the style and the vision, the location, the lighting, mood, everything before everybody goes on set. And so the whole team is on the same page in terms of what the vision is for the final output. So for Unilever, this is a more recent project. So the challenge that a lot of beauty brands do is around photography that allows people to feel what the science is doing. So we weren't aware of this, but apparently they have to sit around for hours, days, waiting for the right bubble to show up and then photograph it and move it around and so on and so forth. So we did a project for the luxury group within Unilever, where we were able to create sort of the imagery of the science behind the products that they have. From hexagonal bubbles to how a cream smudges to how it feels in your skin. So all of these are done through AI, and that saves people a huge amount of time and headache in terms of trying to do that in real life. So the creative aesthetic that this sort of new tool has brought to the market is also interesting. With AI, you can have any type of output that you want. It can be hyper realistic, or it could be super robotic. And so it depends on us how we want to drive it, and the client how we want to make it pushed out forward. So this project with Pangaia was the idea of how can we take this aesthetic that's in the zeitgeist because of all the imagery that people see everywhere using Midjourney, and bring that into a campaign that sort of, if you like, hints at the current culture. We saw this also with Web3, where it was much more gamified sort of approach to aesthetics. So we're in absolute control of the type of imagery that we can create, from hyper-realistic to super futuristic. Hyper-realistic to super futuristic. So this is something that's happening right now. We wanted to turn the whole dialogue on its head. As you all may remember, back in the heyday of social media, there was a lot of focus on UGC, user-generated content, and people would, take a photo of the product in a setting, hashtag, send it in, they might win a prize. So what we're doing in this occasion, we have created a very simple front end that allows any consumer to pick the aspect ratio that they want to do, use some prompts, use negative prompts, which are also really important, to be able to create assets that are in line with the brand. And the brand provides the assets, like the bottle, or this is the artwork from Katie Rogers that Claire Depot has collaborated with for many years. So we took all her illustrations and created a custom model, and people are able to call that and create imagery that's in the same creative direction as what Katie Rogers would have done. And this can become a social campaign. This one is potentially for holiday purposes, and then you have a way to interact with your consumers, reward them, engage them in different ways, and do it in such a way that they find very easy to do. Because if any of you have tried to use Stable Diffusion or any other tools, there's quite a process to not only installing it, but then also the UI UX is not very user-friendly, so that really drives a lot of people away. And then a lot of questions always come up about our process. So our process is very typical in the sense that it's the same process as a brand would go through with a photographer, creative studio, agency, so on and so forth. So it starts with a brief that we refine. We do an AI exploration, so that could be in the place of like mood boards and directions. So we do that all digitally, and then we train the AI to understand what the objects are. And training the AI, I don't know how many people are familiar with it, but usually I use this example of when you have a little kid and you walk down the street with it and the kid doesn't really speak and hasn't really got there yet. You can point to a car and say, hey, that's a green car. That's a blue car, that's a truck, that's an aeroplane. And eventually the kid understands and relates the shapes to what they are. And so it's the same idea. So you show lots of the same thing in different contexts to the machine, and then the machine understands what it is that you're talking about. And you can then name it, like that's a car, and then you can pull that in. And then, again, just like any other process, refinement, but also at the end of this, the final output is never perfect, just like in the work that you guys do. There's always retouching at the end to just take out the little imperfections, make sure the right lighting is there. So that's always at the end of the process. And we do this with brands that we work with, but also people like BrandTech Group that own agencies like Oliver, WPP. So they come to us for this type of the work because we really the only ones globally that do it right now. So we go through the same process with them and refinement, interaction with clients, so that we can get to to the end result. So that was a very quick overview of everything. I hope everybody got something out of it. Thank you.
We'll do a little question and answer up here real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right, good. Wow, that's a lot cooler than what I'm doing with AI right now. All right, let's get to some questions. I would imagine there's going to be a lot of questions for this. How do you handle quality control?
So we're a very small team. Outside of the big work that we do, it's myself and Cyril, who are the co-founders, and then we have 3 people working with us. So everything goes through us. But because we use AI, we're able to do a lot more work much more quickly. So we have an eye on everything.
Okay. Did you say, are you based out of California? Or?
So Cyril is based in Brooklyn, and I'm based in Mexico.
In Mexico? Okay, yeah. Very cool. Ali McLeod. The imagery is incredible. Can you tell us how much is out of the bot and how much human interaction is needed to bring it over the finish line?
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So this is another hype, I think, that's out in the market. It's not really possible to sit in front of Midjourney, put in 3 prompts, and come up with amazing quality image at the end of it. It takes a lot of work to do. We also do it not only because of the quality that we want to integrate or the creative direction that we want to input. People often say, oh, your work has this sort of feel to it that's unique. Maybe because of sort of our creative direction, but also we do it because of legal purposes. So a lot of the discussions around, is it legal? Are you sort of adhering to people's intellectual property rights? We take something that's initially generated. So we say we get inspired by AI, just like an artist or a designer would have a mood board and will look at lots of things and decide the direction they want to go. So that's where we start. And then the other 2 elements that are really important, one is what the courts are calling the human touch. So making sure that our own creativity and different ways we want to adapt the image is sort of layered onto the image. And then lastly, we use the IP of our clients. So these data sets that we get from them and the AI models that we create is from imagery that they own. So all of those layers go towards having the final image. So it's a lot of work, actually. It's not as easy as some YouTubers or Instagram people make it sound like.
Well, and I like the fact that you all are working with photographers as well, with Maison, and then what was the photographer for the futuristic campaign?
He's the only photographer we worked with.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But I like that. You're bringing them into the process as well, which is really cool because that's a lot of the fear out there. It's like, our creator's going to have jobs, so they've got a lot of expertise to bring to the table. Okay, this is a good one. I'm very curious about your answer on this. Can you copyright AI-generated content? Who owns the image?
Right now, you can't really copyright the AI-generated content.
Okay. How do you feed custom looks into AI to contribute to a client's specific campaign?
Custom looks meaning the people or the products?
Don.
Oh, so that's where we do the custom models. So LoRa's, if you want to look them up, L-O-R-A. So we create LoRa's based on those products. So then the AI knows what that product should look like. Dimensions, shape, size, we can adapt colors and so on very easily. And then we in-paint those into the AI imagery that we do.
This is funny. What are your budgets like? For example, Victoria's Secret's project you showed.
Not enough.
How fast are costs of generative content AI coming down?
Depends on your level of expertise. I think this is another area where there's a huge misunderstanding of the space. The tools are mostly free. You can use any tool that we use, but understanding how to use them is really the challenge. And so the cost is really a time cost, if I'm answering the question properly.
Yeah. Have you faced any legal challenges or issues? If so, can you tell us more about those and how you've overcome them?
Yeah, so we haven't, but because we're very careful in terms of how we generate these images. Like I said, we never take something that's purely generated using a platform and showcasing that. So we always have human touch, and we always use the IP of our clients, so that is layered. If you want some guidance on this, Cooley's, which is one of the world's best law firms, they have some guidance on this. You should also have a auditable track of what you're doing. So, we started with this, then we did that, then we did this, then we did that. So having that history also helps you to not get into hot waters.
Oh, that's interesting. Have you come across anything within a campaign that made you think, this would actually be better in real life?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I like it.
Yes. Yeah. Can you provide a more detailed explanation of what we used AI means? What data inputs are required? How much control do you have over shot composition?
Okay. So we have 100% control over the shot composition.
Okay.
Lighting, position of the person, where they are, the setting. So all of those we have 100% control of. The data input is, the data sets are basically either images that we feed it, or sort of the prompts that we provide it, or the models that we can pull from. So if you go into, Stable Diffusion, there are pre-existing models that you can use. So in terms of when we use AI, I'm referring to all those platforms that are out there for everybody to use, with very little cost, if any. And most of them are open source as well.
All right. Have you used AI-generated content for e-commerce PDP? If not, are you planning to?
Not at this stage. I mean, the cost doesn't really make it worthwhile for us, I think. Larger companies with their own creative services team and studios can knock these out in $20, $30, $40 per shot, and we don't really compete at that level. Sure. The areas where we come in are sort of like the more higher tier projects. So like take a Coach or any big organization, they'll have their monthly campaigns that they'll spend $100,000 to $300,000 on. And then they have the seasonal campaigns, Mother's Day, Christmas, all of those, in which they'll spend, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on. So that's the area where we're really working. And then the celebrity shoots we leave to them. But then we're also getting into really other much more interesting projects. For example, we're working with an iconic American designer who's been designing her collection for maybe 40 years consistently. So now we're creating a custom model for her that really learns the DNA of her designs and the sort of the aesthetic of her designs, so that she can much more easily reproduce her collection, but also for succession planning. So whoever comes in behind her and takes the brand on can continue to design with her aesthetic and with her look and feel.
Wow, that's wild. Well, awesome. We are out of time, but I want to thank you for such an awesome presentation. Everyone give Nima a round of applause. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.